All right. June 10th, 2026, London Open Session, CPI Day. Let's start the pre-analysis for today. Pre-market analysis. All right, so I need to clean up this chart a little bit, so it's not too busy, but nonetheless, price went up into the premium race on the daily chart, took out those relative equal highs buy side, and then during the AM session yesterday, it offered a beautiful slide towards the relative equal lows on the daily chart, and it ran it out for a good measure though. Pretty nice price swing there. Besides that, or after that, during lunch, price retraced back inside of 50% of this range, and ever since just consolidated going forward. Interesting enough, to be honest, because I was expecting some sort of a move like this, but I was expecting it for either CPI or PPI, not necessarily before it. That's a little bit uncommon, I would say. Because the general rule of thumb is that this type of movements occur on the news days versus before them, but sometimes I suppose that might be the case. There's like additional manipulation to it. Right, nonetheless, let me go to the daily chart quickly. This is ES, my micro ES. If I will have enough time, I will go over Nasdaq too. All right, so we formed a long discount week in here. So that's a level that's a week that I want to grade, basically, and there is a measure of between this close and this open. There is some sort of like a gap. That's also what's interesting to me based on the daily chart. Yeah, it's close to the to overlapping with the new day opening gap itself, but it's a little bit or slightly larger nonetheless. I will annotate it as daily volume imbalance. All right, so besides that, I have the discount week graded. So that would be an interesting one, because yes, we have buy side here, obviously, and we have sell side here, obviously. We are in the middle, so we could go literally for either one of those. So at this moment, I wouldn't be that bold about stating which one should we go for next. So this to me is very 50-50, meaning the only way to engage this market would be very short-term little scalps. Very short-term little scalps. Let's go 5 minute. Yeah, because it's consolidating, it's building buy side and sell side here and here, right? Going sideways. So that's like a one thing. 1 minute. So yeah, I would say that this sell side here is pretty too obvious, but at the same time, the buy side here is very obvious too. So it doesn't necessarily help that much. We have a breaker here, and price moved a little bit higher. So as a breaker, respected. Now in some measure of consolidation, relative equal highs here on the near term basis, and relative equal lows on the near term basis too. That today will be interesting, that's for sure. Will be interesting. I have 4 minutes, so let's go to the MNQ quickly. Good morning, Sonia. Hello. All right, the same or very similar idea here. This discount week, we reached into that premium fair value gap, delivered sell side. Okay. Same range, 50% of that range. That's where we are at. Minor buy side, minor sell side. Minor buy side, minor sell side. No, I didn't catch the 1.6k lower. Hmm. The All right, Nasdaq is less move in here. It has definitely some SMT divergence on the high and on the lows. But a very, 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 very similar situation to the ES. Very similar. All right, so currently we are stuck in between this quadrant here, the upper quadrant of that week, 75%, and the gap. Lots of clean buy side nonetheless. here. So 381. That's like something that I like initially. So let's see, let's observe. I kind of slightly favor higher, but it's very slight and it's very short term. So yeah, I'm expecting some shenanigans. I'm expecting some sloppy price action. Already, so yeah, we'll see. Yeah, also the fact that we have CPI later today, I assume favors the fact to keep the markets rather consolidated and rather rangy until the CPI. We'll obviously see how it goes, but trading inside of the range is all I can see currently. So yeah, nice relative equal highs here and nice relative equal lows here, perfect set, perfect sample set. We had a breaker here. If we could stop below those lows first into the breaker and then start rejecting that, I'd like that idea for running this buy side here and maybe into this. That definitely would make sense for me. But yeah, let's see how it goes. 3 a.m. already started 2 minutes ago. All right, because we have those relative equal lows and relative equal highs at the moment. I'm really not forcing any side of it, but waiting for one either buy side or sell side to get tagged, right? And then measure whether it wants to continue or not. If not, then I will be vastly interested in running towards the opposite side. And that's the game plan so far. Alright, so looks like we are snapping below the sell side liquidity here first. Fair enough. No obvious inversion for value gap as it is right now, so I would wait for a bullish for value gap to form first. Trading into this breaker is completely permissible. So there we go, we got the breaker. And this is now interesting, whether the breaker, the upper half of the breaker, could be responsive to send price higher. Regardless of what it does, the buy side here, right, the buy side at 7,375.75, this relative equal highs will be a very nice draw on liquidity at some point today. The question is now whether we go there quickly and consume that rather quickly during this session, or if we keep on going further lower, then this buy side here will be very, very sweet for, I don't know, AM session, maybe PM session if it's there. So let's see. But again, no obvious inversion for value gap here. Therefore, I'm waiting for a bullish for value gap to form. That's obvious. All right, so we see a little bit of rejection here, but it's not really convincing at all. Wouldn't be surprised if we made a lower low here, attacking the short-term sell side. All right, picking up some speed. All right, nicely stretching higher here. But quite frankly, I would prefer to get a fair value gap offered around here rather than here. So unless using like a turtle soup here, that's not something I would engage in a different way anyway. So that's fine, but the key to this session, to this long open session is just to not get tricked, okay? Not get tricked by the price, that it will deliver something, because it looks like it could, but we are in this environment where regardless of how good it looks, it can fail. Please, 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 Simon. That's a personal thing, I suppose. But I wish you good luck nonetheless. Alright, so it formed this little small fair value gap right here, right? But quite frankly, I'm not necessarily too excited about this one. It's just below 50% of this little range. But again, I feel like the sell side here is still a little bit possible in a sense. Oh, welcome Nekobasu-san. A long time no see. And yeah, I mean, that's the characteristic of the long open session. That's exactly the characteristic of this particular session, and looking for the Judas swings during this time is probably one of the best time to do so. I hope you're doing good and everything is well, going well. And yeah, I'm still rolling. I'm still rolling with this little bit of business. Yeah, 20 years ago. How old are you, Nekobasu-san? You seem like a young guy. Alright, so it came back into this little fair value gap here. It respected it with the body, that's very nice, and it's running away quickly. So this looks very promising to run the buy set here. And if it should continue, then the buy set here. Alright, that's what I would expect to occur. Will that happen? That is something that I want to study, and we'll see. I'm really curious to see whether it will deliver that or not. keeping in mind that the session might be a little bit wonky. So we'll see. 44. Well, I mean, that's a nice age though. Didn't expect that, Nekobasu-san. But I suppose it's never too late to learn something about trading. All right. So, what's the idea? What's the idea behind this session today? All right. So that we are all on the same page. At the beginning of the session, I stated that this session, I feel like it's more of a 50-50, low probability in terms of the direction I'll play, unless some very little scalps. That's the only way to probably engage inside of the session. I outlined, or I said that I favor the buy sell liquidity here, potentially, as a draw, near term, like very, very near term. And I do stick with that idea, right? But because because of the conditions, because of the place where we are right now in this trading range, because the economic calendar is suggesting CPI, PPI later, right? Today and tomorrow. These conditions aren't necessarily very high probability by definition of things, okay? Doesn't mean that it can't deliver a clean price run. It can, obviously, but more times than not, I would expect it to be rather sneaky and rather tricky in terms of the delivery. So if the conditions were more one-sided and more high probability, I would be already going long here inside this fair value gap, aiming for the buy set here and the final target around there, right? Or somewhere in between. That would be like that would be my idea. But because of the all of the things that I outlined already or mentioned already, I don't want to encourage or just take risk for the pure sake of taking risk. So I'll be just waiting this one out. I'm already not willing to trade it at all, but I'm very, very interested in how the session will deliver overall, whether it will actually offer a clean price run, or did I just save my stop loss with not engaging with it. Whatever happens, it will be a positive experience and it will give insight for the future, basically. Plus, I'll just skip to the morning session anyway. Skip. I will just look for another opportunity in the morning session that maybe will be more obvious for myself. still like keeping in mind that I have the AM session and the PM session possibility. So no reason to rush in the long open session when it's like this today. All right. And already so far, after this nice reaction off of this little fair value gap here, price couldn't even take this high out, and it's already closing below it and stretching lower. As I said, this short-term low is suspect, right? And at this moment, I wouldn't be very comfortable holding along, having my stop loss below this low, right? So already I'm very, very glad that I didn't engage with this price action today. So this is this type of session we are in right now, and that's beautiful nonetheless. That's beautiful nonetheless. I'm not trying to be right no matter what. I'm not trying to be right no matter what. I want to just engage when I can clearly see one side over the another, and if it makes sense to engage it. Right now, as I said, very small little scalps. Seconds chart, maybe, or most likely, seconds chart would be the way to go to. But I don't necessarily want to force a trade no matter what, even if the conditions are unfavorable, or especially if the conditions are unfavorable. All right, so from now on, just a tape reading, pure tape reading, no pun intended, okay? All right, so we form another pool of relative equal lows here. Perfect relative equal lows, another touch into the breaker. This little fair value gap was traded underneath, so it should or could act as a bearish inversion fair value gap instead. All right, so price traded into that bearish inversion fair value gap, now reacting lower. The most logical idea would be to just attack the relative equal lows here off of that, and then we'll see what we will get next. There is another pool of relative equal lows right here on the downside, so that might be a point of interest for price if it wants to actually go lower and leave the relative equal highs intact, which would be interesting, definitely, because by running lower at this moment, look what we are leaving behind. we are living just perfect buy-side liquidity pool in form of relative equal highs. Meaning we are engineering buy-side liquidity. And if price is going lower right now, or will go lower right now, more pronounced, okay, and it's leaving the buy-side liquidity like this, it's quite likely it will want to go and come back to it to run it out later today. So yeah, we'll see. Nonetheless, we smashed through those relative equal lows. And another pool of sell liquidity is here. So that would be like a reasonable continuation to the downside if it wanted to. Before altogether this low. All right, so to me also the bullishness kind of evaporated in a sense, meaning that unless we go on a closing basis above this 308 or 309 in the bearish inversion free value gap, unless we go on a closing basis above it, I'm not expecting necessarily higher prices currently. I mean, it would completely make sense to see a rollover attacking the sell side here and maybe even this low down here. That would be completely reasonable with what the price is presenting so far. All right, so the 325 bearish fair value gap will be interesting to watch, because if it's gonna continue, if it's gonna stay heavy, this should be respected very well, and price shouldn't go above it. And if it does, it should fail as an inversion. If we are gonna go lower in here. Checking Nasdaq, and it's doing very similarly here, I would say. It has the sell side liquidity here too. But yeah, overall not the easiest, not the most obvious session as we could expect. So we did spend enough time inside of this fair value gap, I would say. And if it's gonna go lower, it should roll over quickly from about now. We also hitting the 330 to the time element, therefore it should really boost it to the downside, I would say.